Hello Hambini fans and welcome to another episode of Hambini Reams. In today's episode, enter the usual shitheads SRAM, or their brand of power crank, Quarq. And if that wasn't bad enough, we've got another one, a Quarq crank as well. And if we haven't finished there, enter a new set of shitbags, BB Infinite, fresh from their hairdressers at their cattle ranch in Arkansas in America somewhere, with some more plastic bits. Right, to give you a bit of context, one of my good customers has a bike with a BB30 bottom bracket. That standard these days is basically obsolete, but he's invested quite a lot of money in there and he wants to keep carrying on with it. I don't make a bottom bracket for it, or I haven't made a bottom bracket for it, but my counterparts at BB Infinite have. Now, this is where it gets a bit interesting. Going into his BB30 frame are these Quarq power meter cranksets, and this is what he wants to continue using. These are dub, but not all is not what it seems. So SRAM is basically an acronym for stupid fuckers, because these two axles, the silver one and the black one, are not the same size. So they both say dub on them and they're supposed to be 29mm nominal, but they're not. Sorry, I meant 28.99mm. The black one is ever so slightly wider than the silver one. A normal bike shop, I doubt, will be able to tell the difference. They would just say it's a shit fit. Other things are, if you go and stick this onto a lathe and just check the runouts, there is a bit of discrepancy. Now, in terms of where these things have come from, they're almost identical. The basic difference is the size is slightly longer, so it's a 7.5mm longer arm on this one. This one's got, I mean, these features are irrelevant, but the preload collar on this is the aluminium cane creak one, whereas this one has the plastic one, which is, in my opinion, not as good. This one doesn't have as much use on it either. There's a couple of marks on it, but this is how I got it. So this BB Infinite bottom bracket uses a fairly peculiar style of bearing. So it's a 40-30. So the outside diameter is a 40mm setup and the inside is a 30. Now, in order to get down to the 29, which those cranks over there are, you have to use one of these, which is commonly called a top hat. So this effectively is a spacer. I'm not sure why they do this, probably to cut costs. Well, actually I do know. It's so they can use the same bottom bracket for a 30mm axle or a dub axle. Anyway, so that goes in there. And then this bearing, this isn't actually a 40-30 bearing. This one's a 6806, so it's a standard ISO size. That goes in there, like that. But that's actually quite a slack fit. Now, what the guy was having issues with is that he was getting play in the system. So he reached out and said, look, Hambini, I know it's not your usual cup of tea. Can you do something for me? Now, he also had these things made. Because he was getting this play, he went out to the local machine shop or whatever and had these made. And these are basically copies of the BB Infinite originals. So, where's the other BB Infinite light? So you can see this BB Infinite. Let's have a look, get that in shot. BB Infinite, top hat, drive side road, whatever. And then we get these things made. Now, the issue is, right, when you start to machine thin structures, these things do not remain geometrically accurate. They tend to go out of fashion. Now, I'm going to show you that right now. So if we take this one, this side of this top hat, so the left-hand side as you look at it, is a slightly smaller diameter than the right-hand side. So this is your Quarq crank axle that you spent a lot of money on, and it goes on like that. It's a bit of a tight fit. There we go, squeezes over and job's a good one, yeah. Here's your shorter axle. Is it 165? 165 axle. Same top hat. If we put it on, you see it's stuck there, right? But then notice how much of the axle is sticking out. We've got like 2 or 3 millimeters. If I turn this the other way, now look, there's now 7 or 8 millimeters. So what that tells you is this side is a greater diameter than this side. It also tells you that this and that one are not the same size, which is pretty normal for the bike industry. This is one of BB Infinite's top hats. This is also tapered, so if we push that way, it goes that far. You can see almost all the splines. Go that way, it doesn't. So this one again is tapered that way, so that side is wider than this side. So the replacement top hats that the chap had made are basically copies of the original BB Infinite. So they have the top hat piece there and the original BB Infinite spacer thing that goes there. And that's probably a contributing factor towards the axial play that he had, because you've got all these bits added together. So if they're not completely square, just bear in mind there's a bit of play in there. Yeah, you're gonna feel that. Probably as a click. So this is the replacement part that I've made on the left-hand side, and this is the original. Now, if you look at the axial lengths of both of these, they are the same. So the position in space is the same. The only thing I've done away with is this, because that is liable to cause you a bit of a problem. I've also put in an O-ring groove. Now, you don't actually need that, but I've put it in just in case you get something later on that's slack. Another feature on here is this groove here. So that will butt up against the inner race of the bearing and then stop the outside rubbing against the outer edge. So you'll have a little less friction. So if we try this one onto the axle, see that is a good fit. Okay, it goes slack here because this bit is slightly smaller diameter. So this is the black crankset. Should be exactly the same, but it's not. So it goes up to there and then stops. But this has been machined parallel, so it hasn't tapered. So it goes on the same amount. If I use the other end, so we've got 2 top hats, it might be a bit easier with this one. If we push it on there, you can see there's maybe 3 or 4 millimeters sticking out the end. And then again, 3 or 4 millimeters sticking out the end. So that one is parallel. So it took me ages to do that. Might not sound like much, but it does. Now this is one of the old ones he had. Again, you can see that's butted up or gone up that far and then got stuck on the high spot. And then this end won't go in at all. So what you've seen today is the reality of the bicycling industry. You've got an allegedly reputable company, a multinational company in SRAM, that can't make crank axles the same size. So there's a significant discrepancy between the two. Even this axle, it's had some use, but there's areas there which are the original size because you can see them, and yeah, this one is just out of spec because it's new, so it shouldn't have worn down at all and it doesn't fit. Pro cyclists who I supply want components like these which have no slack, no give, because at the limit, on load, at high torque, high RPM, you can feel the difference. You can feel the clicks and feel a slight play. It feels a bit rubbery. And then we shouldn't really dismiss the people who make the top hats because they are also dished. So when you get to making thin wall structures like these, keeping them square is an art in itself. So they may all look the same, you know, this one and this one look the same, but you can quite clearly see when you actually put them together, there is a difference. And that brings us to the end of this show. If you did enjoy it, remember to smash that like button. If you didn't, go screw yourself. And as always, keep banging your hairdresser.